I sort of always knew I wanted to be a reporter from a young age. It started very early. I remember at 3 years old, and my parents would remind me of this, I would imitate commercials when the commercials were playing on the television set. So I had this affinity for TV pretty early on, and using the hairbrush as a microphone and that sort of a thing. And then I always liked being in the middle of things going on. You know, now at this age in my life, I can look back and see where the little markers were that kind of led me to what I did. And I always liked telling people about things. Probably was a little too chatty as a little girl, you know, wasn't really good at keeping secrets, and you learn later on in life as a reporter you have to be very good at keeping secrets. But then it just developed a love and an interest in current events and reading the newspaper and then watching TV news. Just, you know, my parents did that as well, so I sort of fell in step like that. And before you knew it, I was in high school where they actually offered courses in journalism. So that was thrilling to me to be able to actually be in a course to start to learn how to be a reporter. And then I majored in journalism. In college, I went to Temple University in Philadelphia and was able to obviously accelerate my education, do great internships in Philadelphia. It's a major news market. And it just sort of happened. It's not always that way for people, and there's no right or wrong path, but it just sort of happened naturally, and I kind of knew what I wanted to do, and it is still a love of mine. And even though I'm not a reporter anymore and have had several jobs since I left broadcast journalism, it is something you carry with you. You are a reporter till the day you die. Your inquisitiveness, curiosity, just interest in the world around you, in people, in listening. So it's kind of in my DNA before I even realized it. Most times something happens and you are called to the scene. I don't remember ever a time when I was covering something. Well, let's go back. I covered the state legislature for many years. I was a political reporter here at Channel 5 in Nashville. And because that is always a hotbed of dialogue, conversation, and tempers can flare, I'm sure at some point something had happened during all the years I've done that we were like, bring another camera, we need more, bring a live truck or something. But as far as breaking news, in the city or out in the country we were doing something. I don't recall anything in that regard, but usually something happens unexpectedly, as life is, breaking news, and you are on another story, you are at another location, and you're literally ejected. You know, you could be in the middle of a great debate or a great event, and if there's something of major importance going on and there's lives at stake or safety issues, you are obviously taken out of it because they might be breaking in live. Citizens may need to know if roads are shut down, if there's any danger, if there's like been a chemical spill or something like that. So I've been in many situations where you're literally taken out of an event, you have to rush to get somewhere else, you're going on the air in mere minutes with as much information as you possibly can, especially when I said there are safety issues. You have to try to find the best person on site, be it a policeman, a public safety person, a public works person, get the most basic facts you can, so when you're thrown on that live shot, you can say, here's what I know right now. This road is closed, they're evacuating this area, you know, so many people were hurt, they're being taken here. So that's where the adrenaline mostly is. So if you're actually somewhere, though, first, and that happens, people have definitely had that experience. I can't recall one specifically happening like that for me. But when you're a reporter, particularly I'll go back to 1998 in April when several tornadoes, or what they call sister tornadoes, kind of one big system with several in them, came through Nashville. And I don't know if you were in the city at that time or remember that, but it came up through the west side of town, down Charlotte Avenue toward downtown. It actually went over Channel 5 where I worked. I was already in Robertson County covering a school where a tornado literally went right over the school and ripped the metal roof off. It looked like a can of tuna had been just ripped off the school. And no one was hurt, luckily, but it was so funny. In a way, we could laugh later. The students were just so mad that this tornado hit because the roof fell on their cars. It's terrible, awful. I mean, it was like, well, I just got that car, I should be. I don't mean it in a bad way at all. I mean, they laughed about it later. It's like, of all the things that could have gone anywhere, it went right into the parking lot. And everybody just had to laugh and be calm because no one was hurt. But again, it was a huge mess, and I'm not trying to diminish the damage in there. So there was this great wave of relief when we got there. We went live a few times. No one was hurt. We got a tour of the building. Of course, the other half of the students were happy that school was canceled for the rest of the day, even though we're like, wait a minute, a tornado just went through. And everyone's on edge, and you know, you're very nervous at the time. And literally, as we're finishing up our live shots from there, we get word of this horrendous tornado coming into downtown, and it was so scary because for the first time, you know, your own place of work is now in the line of fire. And I recall being in the live truck and watching the monitor, because we have, you know, TV, just like you have in any live truck, you can watch coverage anywhere. And when it went through downtown, we lost contact with Channel 5. And I'm sitting in there with my photographer and the live truck operator. And I just remember there being this dead calm in the truck thinking, what if they're gone? We had no idea. For a few minutes, we just sat there in utter silence. And I remember, I can't even breathe. When I think back on it, I just think, oh my gosh. And finally, we heard a two-way radio. Our assignment editor came out, I guess it was back on the loading dock of the building, and said, hey, everybody, we're okay. And I just remember tears streaming down my face. You know, now this was going to be a story that affected us directly, as well as the entire city being upended. And for the next few days, we lived and breathed that tornado, not only, you know, making sure Channel 5 was okay. As it turned out, it went over. Some of our cars got messed up. But we were off the air for the better part of that evening and went to, it's now Comcast, but at the time it was, I forget the old name of the cable station, but we went out to Metro Center a few miles away from where Channel 5 is located and continued broadcasting in pretty much a makeshift, you know, a table, a couple of chairs. You know, you don't need a lot to be on TV. Our main anchors are just sitting there with a couple of folding chairs, and they're giving the latest news about a tornado that affected every part of the city and us. And you have a deeper appreciation for a story when you've been directly affected by it as well. Obviously, everyone's welfare is on the line. I could go on forever. The next few days were crazy. You had to have special permission to get into the downtown area. Of course, we worked down there, and they knew who we were because so much of Broadway was knocked over and bricks in the street. So it was a story of major impact for the city, for our station, for our citizens. And for the next few weeks, as you can imagine, it was making sure nobody was hurt or dead, and then going into recovery mode. And you're a changed person after something like that. You have an even greater respect for Mother Nature as well. But that is something just left a huge impression. I was so worried of our colleagues. And of course the lights were all out when we got back there, and we're just using flashlights to go to the bathroom, to get our tapes. And we literally got back to the station. I remember coming back from Robertson County in maybe 5 minutes. Of course it's a lot longer drive than that. I just remember we just got there in no time to check on everybody, and literally turned around, and I guess we were on the air through the wee morning hours and got back there very early. Maybe I slept an hour that night. Power was off at my house too because of the tornado going through. So you have to be flexible. You have to be patient. You have to be able to go with the flow and go wherever the story takes you. And we were all, you know, obviously, that's when a TV station shines in the worst situations. What a great team we were. I was so proud of everybody. We were able to get our building back online with our generators. We got the crew back to the cable station and got everybody back on the air over there. So we were working on 2 locations at once and never missed a beat. So it was a very proud moment in what was a very scary, you know, tragic time for the city. Well, you can't always make sure you're going to be safe. I've been in SWAT situations, SWAT team members through the police department, where they are trying to extricate a hostage. Someone has a gun behind a door. They might have people with them. They might be by themselves. I remember being told a few times by police, Lydia, get down, get out of the way. You know, this is an unsafe area, because you're just doing your job. And you forget sometimes as a reporter, you're there to tell the story, but you are in the line of fire. So luckily I never got hurt in those breaking news situations with police and guns, and you know, anything could happen at the time. And I've been around plenty of live shooting going on too, and luckily it never got hurt that way. But you get so involved in making a deadline and writing a script, and when am I on live next, and okay, the hostage is still in there with the gunman, and the cops over there, and you know, you can get yourself in the middle of it. I was at the scene of a very tragic drowning in southern Middle Tennessee, pretty early in my TV career. A little boy and his dog had gone out for a walk. The dog came back, the child did not. Literally all the TV crews from Nashville went down, and this little boy's birthday had just occurred, I think a couple of days. So the dining room was still wrapped in streamers and presents and candles, and it was just, you know, you're looking at the scene thinking this little boy was here celebrating just, you know, a day or two before. By the end of the day, they found him. And sadly, he had just slipped on a rock in this creek bed and hit his head. And from what we gathered, a very quick death without suffering, but still horrible for this family. Just a tragic, tragic freak accident. The fact that the dog came back, there was a sense when the dog came back, they said, of agitation, that he was trying to convey something was wrong, and the creek was not very far from their home. So you can imagine a small town, family loses a young boy. Nerves are frayed, emotions are running very high, and we were about to do our live shots. At this point, we had spent the entire day with his family, so they knew us and they trusted us. You get a relationship with people but certain other members of the community were not so happy with our being there at this point anymore. You know, it's interesting, when you're a reporter helping tell the story, has anybody seen this boy? Please tell us if he wandered out of the community. You know, very useful, good reporters. But now that we're telling the story and interviewing family members, bad reporters. So it can change very quickly in a community, and your job is to remain calm, be patient, never exploit a situation, try to work with people. But sometimes tempers flare, and a gentleman came at me with a 2x4, swinging it literally, and cursing a blue streak, as I recall. And I literally just talked him down. You should never have to go outside an area for a story. You know, we never paid people for stories and that kind of thing, or did something unethical to get someone to talk. I was always straight up with people. If I had if you were the person I was interviewing, I would just say, Danielle, I need to ask you this. You can choose to answer however you wish, but here's the story. And I would never pull punches. I would never try to do a gotcha on people. I live by the golden rule in my life and in my work. You treat people as you want to be treated. And you know, when you treat people really well, or the way they should be treated, they're usually quite willing to talk to you. As a reporter, you are put into situations where you're there at the worst moment in people's lives. We were in the living room when this poor family found out their little boy died on that creek. We are sent to scenes where a young man may have been shot, you know, from a gang or something, and now you've got to talk to his mother. You're going to try to talk to his mother because she's the one who can tell the best story about him, but she has every right not to want to talk to you. But I would pride myself on the times where I could sit down with a mother or a father or a sister or a brother, grandmother, aunt, whomever was the family spokesman, and say, you know what, this person's life needs to be honored. Tell me about them. You know, what did they do that was special? What did they do that made them remarkable? This is their chance. There's going to be a story about their death tonight, but let us kind of take a few minutes to be able to, in that story, tell who this person was. And I will always love it. And what amazing experiences. You're on the front line of life, you know. When I look back at that little girl with the hairbrush imitating a commercial, and then to be able to be meeting, you know, presidents or country stars or just extraordinary, ordinary people, as I like to put it, you are passing through history with this job. It's incredible. It's an incredible experience. Never not love the job. Would secretly think they're paying me to do this. Oh my gosh, this is a dream come true. To be able to find your calling and live it was, sometimes you were breathless. You know, there are tough days. It's hard meeting deadlines. It's hard becoming an expert in a story in a few hours' time. There are a lot of people think it's a very glamorous job. We'd laugh, It's not a glamorous job. It's a hard job, but it's fun. I love the writing. I loved working with the photographers. I love working with the assignment editors on building a story. Oh, never regretted having that job. Never wanted to walk away. And when I did walk away, it was only because I wanted to try something else and have a new challenge. It wasn't because I was tired of being a reporter. It was just, you know, a new frontier was ahead of me. It would be probably the people I just worked with, and the names wouldn't register with your generation because some of these reporters have gone on to other cities. But it's really important to mentor people. And I was very lucky at Channel 5 where I worked that the older reporters would take the time to answer questions, just to offer little tutorials when they had a few minutes to walk you through how a story works, or technical things, or gaming out how to build a story. And I always thought to myself, gosh, I owe so much to the people around me. Great teachers, great professors. You know, when you look back through your education, the people that really take the time. And when I got into my profession, especially so. And I always saw the value in that, and I have turned that around, and I do whatever I can to help others and pull them up by the bootstraps to help them. And it's a tough business, and there's not a lot of positions open. So it's great to be able to give people the edge, or some education, or look at a resume, or help them get an interview for an internship, or give a reference to a job. It's all part of the process. So it's a lot of people. It's a lot of people. I was lucky to have a lot of people around me. And plus, I put myself out there. If you're a reporter, you're going to be a little bit type A and a little assertive anyway. So, hey, I need help. Could you explain this to me? So it's a combination of people reaching out and you reaching out. And you can't do it alone. It takes a village. Everything in life, you know, takes a village. If you think you can do it by yourself, you're sadly mistaken, and you'll miss rich experiences along the way. Developing those relationships were part of that great mentoring as well.
So can you tell me, or do you have any advice to the up-and-coming journalists?
I will give you a piece of advice that my former boss, Governor Phil Bredesen, would always give anybody, graduates, you know, youngsters, classrooms. Let chance be your friend. There might be a wonderful opportunity right in front of you, but you might miss it because you have this in mind or that in mind. To have an open mind and an open heart in your life. And if you're a reporter, you need those things anyway. You need to be a good listener. You need to have good eyes. You need to be able to kind of be a detective. I always thought being a reporter was like being a detective. Bring your best sense of self to the job every day. Be open to possibility. Be interested. Know when to talk. Know when to listen. Just experience the world, and don't be afraid to take a job, miles and miles away. A lot of people are thinking they're going to find jobs right in their hometown, and you might. It just depends how things work out. When I was in the business and went to Temple University in Philadelphia, that's a huge market to start out in. You might get in as an intern, you might become an associate producer, you might be an assistant assignment desk person, and I took some of those jobs to get started. I was the night assignment editor on the weekend at the NBC affiliate. Very low on the totem pole, but in the door, loving it. I was in charge of planning stories and sending crews out. But they told me, if you stick around 5 years, you might do this. And if you do 5 more years, I'm like, 5 years? I quickly realized this was not the path to success or fulfillment for me. So I went from Philadelphia to Asbury Park, New Jersey, home of Bruce Springsteen, everybody knows that, and which is considered a suburb of the New York radio and TV market. Got my feet wet in radio, and it was wonderful. I did so much live reporting in the field, in the station, hourly newscasts, and that helped me get my first job in Nashville for the Tennessee Radio Network, which at the time when I came down was a huge statewide network that filled in gaps for smaller radio stations that didn't have a full newscast or a full news department. And again, hourly experience in writing and reporting and live shots, and well, not live shots, but in radio, I mean, live broadcasts. But I've always wanted to end up in television, but I loved radio, so I wasn't upset to get that experience. And I realized all that radio experience really helped me do a transition that was better than most, than some get do to make it easier from live reporting from radio to TV. A lot of people think out of college, I'm going to go right into television. And you can sometimes, and these days, sometimes you go as a camera person / reporter. And I didn't have to do that. I was lucky. I think the people who hold the camera are specially trained to do that. And I love that they did it and helped me do my job. But all my years in radio really helped pave the way to understand the dynamics of live reporting and quick turn deadlines. And so I was thrilled I had it. If I hadn't taken that chance, let chance be your friend, and only had that one-track mind to TV, I might have missed out on some amazing experiences and, references and people and reporting different elements and going to a different part of the country. I'm from Philadelphia. I moved to northern New Jersey. It was far enough away, that I could still see it wasn't too far enough away. I mean, not that I wouldn't see family and friends, but I kind of just started making my way. And, most students coming out of college want to do that anyway. They want to kind of get going, I had toyed with the idea of maybe getting a master's, but I thought, the only way to do this job and be good at it is to get out there and do it. It's never too late in life to get a master's, and I might want to do that sometime, but plus I had mounting bills from all my student loans and things, so it's like, I need to start making some money. But I just want to get out there and do it, because you can sit in a newsroom, in a classroom, and type away all you want, but until you are actually on a deadline, until you have a news director calling you, you're on the air in 5 minutes or something, it's just, there's nothing like it. It's an adrenaline rush. I will admit that people like yourself going into this business, it is the equivalent of not taking drugs but having the same effect. And I don't do drugs, for the record. But it has that stimulation, that high, getting the story, getting on the air. It's if you're in this business, there's no feeling quite like it. To get something, if you have an exclusive, whew, it's even more of a high. Just excitement. Get it first, get it right. Sometimes I see a lack of that in the generations of reporters that are out there right now, and they're missing out. It's not about being a TV star. If you want to be a star, go to Hollywood, they always used to say. If you want to be a reporter, do your work, get a little dirty, scrap it up a little bit, make a few extra calls, learn more about your story, take the time to write a great story, make sure someone looks over it. In a newsroom, there's usually an executive producer or another producer looking over your shoulder, checking your facts and all. Again, it's a team that gets you where you are. When that story gets on the air, a lot of people helped put you on the air that night. So I could give advice, I guess, for a long time. But I think it's good advice, and I don't like to sound preachy, but you get what you put into it. You will be respected. You will be trusted. The better you are at your job, you'll have sources. You'll have people calling you with news tips. If they see how much time you put in, I've been gone from the legislature for a long time. I still hear people tell me, I remember how hard you worked on your stories. I remember seeing your stories on the air, that you took the time to get as many sides of a story. That there is no better compliment to me to this day, that people remember that it mattered to me and I put the time in. You just have to want it. Just have to want it. I usually covered politics and the General Assembly during what they call the legislative session, which would be January through May usually, but I was general assignment the rest of the year. So I had great mix of experiences, covering the political thing, which I loved, and then covering anything the day would bring when I wasn't in session. So I might have my own story idea and go out and do it, or something may happen, or someone else may have an idea, but they were working on something else. So invariably, you never know what you're going to get. And that's part of the fun of this job. If you like that sort of life, when you walk in, no 2 days are ever alike. But Country Music Awards, happen every year in Nashville. One particular year was crazy. President Bush and his wife Barbara were here to actually attend them. That's the first President Bush. I remember meeting all these country stars I'd never met before, like in the back lot there as they were getting ready, and just getting a chance to interview all them. And it was the same day, believe it or not, the shuttle, and I forget which shuttle it was flying piggyback on a 747 and going to Fort Campbell, and we saw it fly over Opryland as we're getting ready to do our first live shot. It was like, what kind of a great day is this? I got a president on this side, I got the shuttle over here, I'm getting to meet all these stars, it's a national TV broadcast. Reporting puts you in the middle of just amazing situations. And again, you're on the front line of life, you're passing through history. So that was just fun on its face value. So, you got to cover a little country music if you're in Nashville, and that's always a blast. Meeting what I have termed extraordinary, ordinary people, the people who just walked out of their house that was blown away by a tornado, people who have lost family members in tragic circumstances, who are just so full of courage and grace and will talk to you, and you just learn so much about them and their beloved family members. I remember after the tornado of '98, which I told you about, Union Station downtown took a hit as well. The clock tower got all busted up, and I have a real love for architectural, not just architecture, but artifacts and that sort of a thing. So I called over there and I said, well, when are you going to fix the tower, the whole clock tower and all? And they gave me the date and they invited me to come over. So this was an amazing experience. On a Saturday morning, before I began my shift as a weekend anchor / producer, we went up in these huge cages and cranes, and they put us like well over, you know how tall the Union Station is. We were up there shooting as they took the statue of Mercury down. Mercury is this statue of the Greek god of speed who's on top of Union Station, but the tornado bent him over. So they had to take him off and take him to a local foundry to fix him, to make him straight again. I was there for the whole thing. I went up in the crane in this rocking cage. We shot these awesome promos for the newscast way up in the sky. Went over to the foundry, watched him get fixed, went back up, watched him get put back on. You get to go through the tower of Union Station. You get to go to places that most people would never see. I walked around the broken clock tower where the clock faces were, blown out to get to where we were going, to get some different shots and do stand-up. So if you have interest in life and you pursue them, I pursue that totally on my own. That would have happened and people would have said, oh, look, they're fixing Mercury. But because I had interest in architecture, just called over there. Hey, what are you doing? When are you doing it? Can I come over? Hey, is it okay? Like, sure, come on over. I got a great story, and I had a blast. That is the dirty secret of this job. You can have fun and work. I'll just tell you, it's true. Here I was loving this architectural masterpiece of Nashville, Union Station, and getting this amazing story, which nobody else had, by the way. I was the only one in Nashville that had that story. I mean, other photographers and all were shooting from the ground, but I was the only reporter up in that crane because I took the time and went over there a few times on my days off and met these guys who ran the hotel and worked it out that I would, be the one there when they did it. No one else had called. So
have you ever thought about going back to being a reporter?
I don't think so. I'm a little older now, and life takes you other places. I got this bug to be a campaign press secretary for a governor, and I got that experience, and he was kind enough to let me stay on as his press secretary when he became governor. So I was with Governor Bredesen for a total of 9 years with the campaign. One as the campaign aide with him. I am now this new entity at Lipscomb University where a master's class is starting and we're focusing on civic leadership. But I'll always be a reporter. I don't want to go back though. I think it's a younger person's game, I'll say that. I've carried enough tripods and I've worked a lot of late hours, but I don't ever want to, let someone like you think you shouldn't go down the path. It's one of the best paths of all. But I've kind of been there, done that. I kind of like moving forward. But you will take it with you no matter what you do. You'll always look at life like a reporter. You look at things visually. You kind of look at things as asking questions and being inquisitive. You can't get around it. Once a reporter, always a reporter. When I was your age, and people would say, what do you want to do in 5 years? I hated that question. I still hate it today. I had no idea I'd go from reporter to press secretary to higher education. The great thing about our generations is there's no one career. My parents, our grandparents, very much would go to a place and probably spend their entire life there and be very happy. But life is so different now, and you can have several careers in a lifetime. So I guess I'm on my third one now, and something else may come up. I've toyed with the idea of maybe opening a business sometime, or going into consulting or some kind of media work and fall back on some of my old skills. You use them all the time, but I don't know. But I still want to answer the question, what do you want to do in 5 years? I hate that question. Let chance be your friend. I always try to bring it back around, because you never know what's going to happen.
So is there anything else that you would like to add?
Gosh, I'll tell you, it's so different now for you entering this profession with social media and Facebook and where people get their news. When I was ending my time as a press secretary, Facebook and all, tweeting was really getting big. And some of our state departments would use some of those outlets to get like safety things out, like TDOT, Department of Transportation, would get roads closed or icy roads, and they're using these new mechanisms. But when I was a reporter, TV and radio, none of that stuff was there. We were just happy to have these fabulous computers at our desks, and now reporters are actually editing a video digitally at their desks. We used to walk back to the edit bay and look at tapes, and maybe they still do that. I haven't been in a newsroom for a little bit, but the landscape has really changed. So I think you're entering a whole new world with new challenges, no doubt, because I think it's even harder because there's so many different outlets. I know for a fact that reporters are using Facebook to gather news, bits and bytes and see what's going on. It's not just about calls or relationships and press releases. You now have to go beyond those things and look at this whole new area, which it's a lot to take in. But I think it's exciting, and I think it makes more people closer to the industry, like iReports on CNN. I'm fascinated where it's all heading. Also a little worried because not everybody on the street is a reporter, and I like the editorial confines of a newsroom. I like that there are checks and balances, and a lot of these people who put a camera in their face and then put it up on YouTube. It might be interesting. You have to watch it with a critical eye. That it's not always news, but it's where news is headed. So I hope there's always a place for a nightly newscast. I love that. But I love how websites are, like newspapers are kind of trying to keep up, and they're always updating. I dealt with that as a press secretary. You think a newspaper reporter would do one story a day, but they're updating it constantly on the web, and we had to make changes in my job with the governor and that too. So it's going to be interesting for you when you get out there 24/7 to see what this new landscape is like. But I have had a blast doing it. I'm so happy I did it, and I love talking about it, as you can tell from this interview. It's fun to go down memory lane a little bit, but it's also fun to talk about what matters in the job, and that doesn't change from my generation to yours. The idea of the golden rule and getting it right and being respectful of facts and asking for help when you need it, whether it be technical or editorial. It's a great job. You will love it.